There's a discipline almost nobody is ever taught. Not the discipline of waking early, not the discipline of grinding through your work, not the discipline of pushing your body in the gym. It's quieter than all of that. It's rarer than all of that. It's the discipline of not reacting, the discipline of staying still while everything around you is screaming for a response. And the moment you start to build it, something strange begins to happen. The louder people get, the quieter you become. The more they panic, the steadier you feel. The harder they pull, the less they move you. And at first it feels unnatural. It feels wrong. Because you were raised to mirror people, you were raised to match their energy, you were raised to get swept up in the emotion of the room, just to prove that you belong. But here's a truth almost nobody says out loud. In every room that falls into chaos, there is always one person who doesn't get pulled under. And that person, quietly, without a word, is running the entire room. This isn't the gentleness of a saint. Let's be clear about that. The gentle person avoids conflict. They pull back to protect their own peace. But the calm person is something else entirely. The calm person stands in the middle of the storm and does not lose themselves. They don't run, they watch, they wait, they calculate. And that is a kind of power most people never come close to. Niccolò Machiavelli did not write for the men who wanted to be loved. He wrote for the men who wanted power and who wanted to keep it. And the first thing he understood is simple. This world does not run on kindness. It runs on strength. It runs on appearances. It runs on your ability to master yourself while everyone around you comes apart. Because composure does not make you a better person. It makes you a more dangerous one. If that made you stop for a second, subscribe right now. Because over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through 9 principles. 9 principles that will make you the hardest person to manipulate in any room you ever walk into. And once you see them, you will never look at people the same way again. So let's begin where it all begins. Let's begin with chaos. Chaos does not create anyone. Chaos reveals who was already prepared. Machiavelli left us an image, and I want you to carry it with you for the rest of your life. He said that fortune is like a violent river. When it rages, it rises, it floods the banks, it tears down the houses, it drowns the fields, and in that moment, no one can stand against it. Everyone runs, everyone is swept away. But then he said the thing that almost everyone misses. Precisely because the river is so violent, the wise man builds his walls before it comes. He builds his banks, he digs his channels. He does this on the calm days, the quiet days, when the water is still soft and slow. So that when the flood finally arrives, the water has somewhere to go. And he is not carried off with the rest. This is what separates the master from the mastered. Most people go their entire lives without laying a single stone. They build nothing inside. They train nothing. They leave their minds wide open and exposed. And so when the crisis comes, when the betrayal comes, when the failure comes, they are swept clean away. And then they look up at the water and they call it fate. But the calm person was never luckier than you. The calm person simply built the walls a long time ago. On the quiet days, on the days when no one was watching, they trained themselves to stand still while others shook. So that when the flood arrived, they were still standing there. Dry, watching, awake. Picture an office the moment a crisis breaks, a project collapses, a client walks, and everyone starts running, pointing fingers, hunting for someone to blame. And in the middle of all of it, there is one person sitting still, thinking clearly, offering the first real answer. Who do you think they remember? Not the loudest voice in the room. The one who was still standing when everyone else went down. The storm does not decide who you are. The storm only reveals how ready you were. And that brings us to something deeper. You cannot master other people until you have mastered yourself. This is the foundation of all power. And it is the part almost no one understands. They want to control their circumstances. They want to control the people around them. And yet they cannot control their own reaction to one small piece of criticism. Machiavelli prized a quality he called virtue. Not virtue the way you think of it. He meant the strength of the will, the power to press your own order onto a chaotic world. And that strength begins on the inside. It begins the moment you understand one thing. Every reaction you give away is a leak. Every reaction is information. So sit with this. When you get angry, you have just shown them what reaches you. When you grow afraid, you have just shown them where you are soft. When you get desperate for approval, you have just handed them the key to moving you. The one who leaks is the one who gets read, and the one who gets read is the one who gets controlled. Every time you lose your calm at the exact moment they wanted you to, you have handed them leverage. You have proven they can reach inside you. And once they know they can reach inside you, they will do it again and again and again, every single time they need to move you. Look at a negotiation. Two people across a table. Whoever shows their impatience first, whoever cannot hide their fear of losing the deal, that person has already lost before the real negotiation has even begun. Because the other side has read their hand, and once a hand is read, the game is over. The man who cannot command himself will always be commanded by the one who can. And this is exactly why composure becomes the sharpest weapon you own. Because it makes you unreadable, Machiavelli wrote a line I want you to burn into your mind. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Almost no one ever touches what you truly are. Most people are led by the surface. They judge by what they see, not by what is real. And so your calm becomes a mask, not a mask of lies. A mask of discipline. You choose what you show. You choose what you keep. You decide how much of the real anyone is ever allowed to read. And that is a power that most people don't even know exists. Machiavelli said, "The man who wants to hold power must learn to be both the lion and the fox." The lion has the strength to frighten his enemies, but the lion cannot see the trap. The fox sees every trap, but the fox is not strong enough to fight off the wolves. So the wise man becomes both. He knows when to show his strength, and he knows when to go silent. So silent that no one can read his next move. The man who cannot be read cannot be moved, because every manipulation needs a handle. It needs an emotion to pull, a fear to press, a hunger to feed. And when you give them no handle, the one who wanted to move you is left standing in front of a smooth, blank wall. Nothing to grip, nothing to pull, nothing to use. Look at the quietest person in a tense meeting. While everyone fights to be heard, while everyone scrambles to defend their ego, that person simply watches. And when they finally speak, the whole room leans in. Because their silence built a weight that all those rushing words could never carry. People cannot attack what they cannot read. Now we come to the part that disturbs people the most. Why your calm makes other people so angry. To understand it, you have to accept a cold truth about human nature. A truth Machiavelli never once looked away from. People, on the whole, act out of self-interest and out of fear, far more than they ever act out of love. They are ungrateful, they are changeable. They will stand beside you while it's easy, and turn their backs the second the storm draws near. It sounds harsh, but look closely at the bonds around you. Most of them were never built on love. They were built on quiet contracts. Contracts no one ever signed out loud. You stay small, so they get to feel large. You stay dependent, so they get to feel needed. You stay reactive, so they get to feel in control. The people who want to run you always knock on the same doors. The door of guilt, the door of fear, the door of your hunger to be approved of. They knock, and every time you open one, they walk in and they rearrange you to suit themselves. But then you become calm, and you stop leaking, and one by one, those doors close. Guilt no longer moves you. Fear no longer bends you. The hunger for approval no longer makes you beg. And suddenly, the one who used to run you realizes they are knocking on a wall. This is when you finally get to see who they really are. They escalate. First comes the confusion, because the old tricks have stopped working. Then comes the blame. You've changed, they say. You've gone cold. You're not yourself anymore. Then comes the aggression, because desperation drives them there. And finally, when nothing else works, they play the victim. So understand this clearly. They do not escalate to win. They escalate to get their access back. The one who controls your emotions can slowly control how you see yourself. And when you close that door, you are not just refusing a request. You are cutting off a supply of power they had learned to live on. This is why the people closest to you sometimes turn the harshest at the exact moment you begin to grow. The friend who tolerated your disrespect suddenly has boundaries. The one who always explained themselves suddenly goes quiet. The one who always pleased everyone suddenly stops sacrificing. And the group reacts as if a betrayal has taken place. But there was no betrayal. Your old role simply died, and the power they held over you died right along with it. The person most disturbed by your growth is almost always the one who profited most from your weakness. If you have ever watched someone escalate like that, the moment they could no longer run you, leave a comment. Tell me where you've seen it in your own life. And if these principles are shifting the way you see people, make sure you are subscribed. Because the next part takes you out of one room and into an entire crowd. Because if one person can be swept away by emotion, a crowd can be swept 100 times faster. Machiavelli watched the crowd closely, and what he saw was not flattering. The crowd is changeable. The crowd is led by appearances and by the feeling of the moment. The crowd is loyal while things are good and scatters the instant danger comes near. You can convince them of anything in an afternoon and lose them again by nightfall, because the crowd amplifies instinct. Anger spreads faster in a group than it ever could in one person. Fear spreads faster. Cruelty spreads faster. People in a crowd say things they would never say alone. Because the crowd dissolves the individual, it dissolves responsibility. The single person disappears inside the collective feeling, and for a while they stop being a person at all. You have seen this. A wave of outrage sweeps through an office, a friend group, a corner of the internet. And suddenly, people who were perfectly level-headed are speaking in the same tone, carrying the same anger, repeating the same lines. They are no longer searching for the truth. They are searching for alignment, for belonging, for the warmth of the tribe around them, and this is the moment the calm person becomes a real threat. Because the calm person breaks the spell, they do not catch fire with the rest. Their very presence reminds everyone that joining in was a choice, that the fire was a choice, and the crowd will never forgive that reminder. But while everyone else is at peace, pushed across the board by feeling they don't understand, the calm person is the only one who sees the board itself. They see who is driving the anger. They see who is feeding it. They see exactly where it is going to lead. And when you can see the board, while everyone else is just a piece, you have already won the game before it ends. When everyone is a pawn, the only one who sees the board has already won. And once you start to see it that way, you arrive at something most people never admit. Pressure does not create character. Pressure only reveals it. Machiavelli never judged a man by his words. He judged him by his actions, and above all, by his actions under pressure. Because talk is cheap, anyone can look noble when the day is easy. But who a person truly is only surfaces when there is something real to lose. A promotion, a betrayal, a public humiliation, a sudden flash of jealousy. These moments create nothing. They simply tear off the mask and show you the person who was standing there the whole time. So watch what people do when they lose control. Watch how fast the empathy vanishes the second their ego is threatened. Watch who would rather burn a friendship to the ground than admit they are in the weaker position. Watch who abandons the ally before the ship has even begun to sink. You will learn more about a person in 1 minute of pressure than in years of easy conversation. And here is the moment that changes how you see people forever. It rarely arrives in some great explosion. It arrives quietly, in a small moment, when you suddenly understand that someone was never responding to who you really are. They were only ever responding to the version of you that served them. And once you see that, your memory begins to rewrite itself. Old conversations replay, in a different key. Compliments start to sound like transactions. Affection starts to reveal the conditions that were always hiding underneath it. But there is something even more important here. When you grow, you become a threat to the small kingdom that other people built on the old version of you. Your change unsettles the order they had learned to lean on, and they will resist that change, sometimes fiercely, not because you wounded them, but because you took back power they believed was theirs. People can carry your pain, they can carry your insecurity, they can even carry your self-destruction, but your self-respect that changes the hierarchy, and almost no one will forgive you for changing the hierarchy. Now we arrive at the question Machiavelli is most famous for. Is it better to be loved or to be feared? His answer is sharper than people remember. Ideally, you would be both. But because it is so hard to hold both at once, if you are forced to choose, it is safer to be feared. Because love is held together by a thread that people will cut the moment it stops serving them. And fear is held together by something far more reliable. But he added a warning that most people rush right past. You may make them fear you, but you must, at all costs, avoid being hated, because fear keeps people at a distance, while hatred drives them to find a way to destroy you. And here is what truly matters. Real power is not being loved by accident. It is not being feared by accident. Real power is the ability to choose what you project. The master is the one who decides when the room feels warmth toward them, and when the room feels a weight that keeps anyone from stepping out of line. It is a choice, never an accident, but now I have to warn you about a trap that so many people fall into when they hear words like these. Outward calm without inner mastery is an incredibly fragile thing. There are people who look steady. They control the voice. They control the face. They control the posture. But it is only a coat of paint. Underneath, they are still full of unresolved anger. Still full of unexamined fear. Still full of an insecurity they have never once looked in the eye. They look like a strong prince, right up until fortune tears the control from their hands. And when that happens, everything they buried erupts at once. The rage, the panic, the cruelty, the collapse. Pressure exposes what peace concealed. So real strength was never about never feeling the darkness. The truly calm person is not the one who never felt jealousy, or fear, or anger, or loneliness, or the cold ache of feeling beneath everyone else. The truly calm person is the one who looked at all of it, dead in the eye, who faced their own ambition without flinching, who faced the cruelty they were capable of, and decided with open eyes when to use it and when to hold it back. Because what you refuse to face inside yourself will eventually rule you from the dark. And most people are being ruled, right now, by forces they still believe are their personality. The calm person is not the one who never saw the darkness. The calm person is the one who looked straight into it and stopped blinking. And this is where all of it comes together. When you have mastered yourself this deeply, something strange happens. You stop needing chaos in order to feel alive. Understand, this is not going numb. It is the opposite of numb. It is the moment every emotion you feel becomes a choice instead of a reflex. You no longer let just anyone throw a stone into the lake of your mind and send the ripples wherever they please. You choose which storm is worth your energy, and the rest, you let them die outside your mind. And you begin to accept people exactly as they are. Machiavelli was never a bitter cynic. He was a realist. He did not hate people for being ungrateful and changeable. He simply saw them as they truly were, and built his strategy on that truth, instead of on a fantasy. And here is what finally sets you free. When you stop expecting unconscious people to act consciously, you stop suffering. You stop waiting for someone who only knows leverage to suddenly honor a boundary. You stop waiting for someone who lives on chaos to suddenly choose peace. You start to see people as they are, instead of as your hope wished them to be. And that acceptance does not make you cold, it makes you precise. You stop trying to rescue every person who is drowning themselves around you. You stop absorbing the poison just because someone else refuses to face their own darkness. Not every storm deserves your nervous system. Not every fire deserves your hands. Not every drowning person was reaching for you to save them. Because the world will always be loud, the crowd will always chase the next wave of outrage. People will always cast their own insecurity onto everyone around them. And fortune will always rise like a violent river, sweeping away everyone who never bothered to build a wall. But the most dangerous person, the one no force on earth can control, is the one who turned their own calm into a fortress that no chaos can break. If you want to build that fortress for yourself, subscribe and watch the next video, where I'll show you why sometimes disappearing completely is the most powerful move a person can ever make. because mastering your presence is only the beginning. The real mastery is learning to master your absence. And remember this, people will always try to pull you into their storm. Your task is not to win their storm. Your task is to become the person who no longer needs it. The person who no longer feeds on it. The person who can stand in the middle of every raging river, perfectly still, and watch it pass.